We all recognize Tom Selleck as the no-nonsense Frank Reagan from Blue Bloods, stoic, honorable, and built like the last true patriarch on TV. But that's just one chapter in a life filled with twists Hollywood couldn't write if it tried. Here's the wild part. Tom Selleck was George Lucas's first choice to play Indiana Jones. Yeah, that Indiana Jones. And if that wasn't enough, he was also offered another iconic role that would have made him a 90s legend. But both slipped through his fingers. Why? The real reason is frustrating, surprising, and might just make you respect him more. But this isn't just a story of missed chances. It's about the man who walked away from superstardom to serve his country, got sued for stealing water during California's worst drought, and still managed to become one of the most beloved TV actors of all time. He's been a cowboy, a detective, a sex symbol, and even a baseball player. And now, as Blue Bloods comes to an end, Tom Selleck's next move could change everything we thought we knew about his legacy. So, who is Tom Selleck really? What drives a man to turn down fame for loyalty, give up movie roles to honor a TV contract, and still stay relevant across 5 decades of Hollywood chaos? The truth behind the mustache is way more fascinating than the roles he played, and it all started in a place you'd never expect. Before the iconic Ferrari, before the Emmy Awards, and before the mustache became pop culture canon, Tom Selleck was just a quiet kid from Michigan with no clue he'd someday be one of America's most recognizable faces. Born Thomas William Selleck in Detroit on January 29, 1945, Tom's early life was far from glamorous. His mother, Martha, kept the home running while his father, Robert, climbed the ranks in real estate. 3 years after his birth, the family packed up and headed west to Sherman Oaks, California, planting their roots in a city that would unknowingly shape Tom's destiny. Growing up in the Valley, Tom was the definition of the all-American boy, tall, handsome, polite, and athletic. By high school, he was already standing at 6 feet 4 inches, making him impossible to miss. After graduating from Grant High School, he played it safe, enrolling at Los Angeles Valley College to save money. But even then, you couldn't ignore his presence. Coaches noticed. So did scouts. He eventually transferred to the University of Southern California, where he suited up for the USC Trojans men's basketball team. But Tom wasn't just an athlete. He played baseball, joined the Sigma Chi fraternity, and was part of the elite Trojan Knights, a service and spirit group. He had the look, the charm, the charisma, yet acting wasn't even on his radar. He was studying business, thinking about a safe future, maybe something in marketing. Then came a suggestion from his drama coach, one that would shatter every plan he thought he had. On a whim, Selleck dipped his toe into acting, and it clicked. There was something about the camera, the craft, the storytelling. It pulled him in. So much so, he dropped out in his senior year to go all in on a dream. He enrolled at the famed Beverly Hills Playhouse, training under legendary acting coach Milton Katsalas. Things were lining up, until the world intervened. In 1967, just as his training was wrapping up, Tom received his draft notice during the height of the Vietnam War. He could have run. He could have used Hollywood to find a way out. Instead, he did what most wouldn't. He signed up. For the next 6 years, he served in the California National Guard's 160th Infantry Regiment. It was a move that delayed his career, yes, but it earned him a different kind of respect. And while most actors were chasing fame, Tom was learning discipline, leadership, and grit, qualities that would shape every role he played after. When he finally returned to Hollywood in the early 70s, he was starting from scratch. But this time, he wasn't just another pretty face. He was a man with something to prove, a man who had traded opportunity for honor. And that's when the hustle really began. Tom Selleck didn't walk into fame. He crawled, stumbled, and scratched his way into the spotlight, starting with the kind of gigs most actors would rather forget. His very first appearance on television? Not a starring role, not even a speaking part. It was The Dating Game. Twice. In 1965 and again in 1967, Selleck sat on that corny set as a college senior, answering awkward questions and flashing that million-dollar smile. He didn't win, but he was about to lose something even bigger: anonymity. After that, the doors didn't exactly fly open. Instead, Tom started small, commercials, modeling gigs, and low-budget appearances that most actors would hide from their resumes. He became the face of Pepsi, then posed for Salem cigarettes, and even fronted a cologne line by Revlon. There were cheesy ads for Right Guard deodorant, a bizarre duet with Farrah Fawcett in a 1972 spot, and endorsements for Safeguard soap and Close-Up toothpaste. If it smelled clean or tasted minty, Tom Selleck probably sold it at some point in the 70s. And yet, despite the low-level fame, the breakout moment never came. He landed small movie roles, forgettable stuff like Daughters of Satan and a blink and you'll miss it appearance in the thriller Coma. There were a few guest roles on TV, including a recurring private investigator on the Rockford Files, but none of it stuck. In total, he filmed 6 separate TV pilots that never got picked up. 6. That would be enough to crush most actors. But Tom didn't quit. He kept pushing, because somewhere deep down, he knew his shot was coming. And when it finally arrived, it changed everything. In 1980, after years of near misses and frustrating almosts, Tom Selleck was finally handed the keys to the kingdom. Magnum, P.I. wasn't just another detective show. It was a cultural phenomenon waiting to happen. Set against the lush backdrop of Hawaii, Tom's character, Thomas Magnum, was the perfect storm. A laid-back, mustached private investigator with a military past, a Ferrari 308 GTS, and a refusal to wear anything besides Hawaiian shirts and short shorts. It was cool. It was different. And audiences were hooked. The show exploded. It ran for 8 seasons, dominated ratings, and turned Selleck into a household name. He won an Emmy, a Golden Globe, and a permanent spot in the Pop Culture Hall of Fame. But what most people don't know is that Magnum P.I. was both the best and worst thing to ever happen to him. Here's the kicker. Right before filming started, George Lucas tapped him to star as Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's not a rumor, it's fact. Lucas and Spielberg wanted Tom. He even screen tested. But Magnum's producers wouldn't let him go, locking him into the contract. Ironically, a writer's strike delayed production for over 6 months. If he'd known, he could have done Raiders and still made it back in time. Instead, the role went to Harrison Ford. And history was made. Looking back, Tom admitted the regret, but never bitterness. In an interview, he said, "I made a deal with Magnum, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me." When friends urged him to fake an injury or break the contract, he refused. "I have to look my parents in the eye," he said, "and we don't do that." That loyalty may have cost him a blockbuster movie career, but it cemented something even more important: his reputation as one of Hollywood's rare good guys. And believe it or not, Magnum wasn't the only role he lost that could have changed everything. Tom Selleck's career after Magnum, P.I. wasn't some easy ride into Hollywood royalty. In fact, it was a maze of what-ifs, close calls, and unconventional decisions that could have either made or broken him. And in true Selleck fashion, he walked away from more than most actors dream of. Let's start with one of the wildest near misses in TV history, Baywatch. Yes, the global phenomenon that gave us slow-motion beach runs and cemented David Hasselhoff's place in pop culture. Originally, the producers had their eyes on Tom Selleck. He was a prime candidate, tall, ripped, and already known for his charisma. But Selleck said no. Why? Because he didn't want to be seen as a sex symbol. In an era where every actor was chasing exposure, Tom deliberately passed on the spotlight. He wasn't interested in feeding an image. He wanted roles with meaning, even if it meant leaving millions on the table. Then came Friends. It was 1996. Magnum had been off the air for years, and Selleck's name wasn't exactly trending with the younger crowd. So when the creators of Friends asked him to guest star as Monica's older boyfriend, Richard Burke, his agents nearly lost it. They told him the role was too small, the format too trendy. Selleck disagreed, and thank God he did. Over just 6 episodes, Selleck turned Richard into one of the most beloved guest characters in sitcom history. Charming, composed, and surprisingly vulnerable, his chemistry with Courtney Cox was electric. Their romance, built on subtle tension and undeniable connection, was a fan favorite. In fact, for years people argued that Monica should have ended up with Richard instead of Chandler. That's how much impact he had. What's crazy? He almost didn't take the role, but his gut overruled the spreadsheet and it paid off. The performance earned him an Emmy nomination and proved that Selleck wasn't locked into one lane. He could jump genres, adapt, and still steal scenes from a room full of comedy legends. But he wasn't done yet. Just when people thought he was pivoting toward retirement, Tom was quietly preparing for one of the biggest comebacks in TV history. In 2010, at an age when most actors are chasing retirement plans or writing memoirs, Tom Selleck did something few expected. He took the lead in a gritty new CBS drama called Blue Bloods. And with that, he reinvented himself once again. This time not as a hero in a Ferrari, but as the heart of a family holding New York's police force together. As NYPD Commissioner Frank Reagan, Tom embodied a very different kind of strength, quiet, burdened, and deeply principled. He wasn't chasing criminals with guns drawn anymore. He was navigating internal politics, family tensions, and the weight of moral responsibility. And fans loved it. Blue Bloods became a quiet juggernaut, drawing millions every Friday night, thanks in large part to the man at its center. But what really made the show click? One surprisingly emotional detail: the Reagan family dinner, 8 pages long, shot in one take, raw, layered, and deeply real. Tom was skeptical at first. They're never going to keep that, he remembered thinking. It's way too long for network TV. But executive producer Leonard Goldberg had a vision. He told Tom, "This is the soul of the show." And he was right. Those dinner scenes weren't filler, they were the anchor, a place where every episode came full circle. Fans didn't just watch the show for crime drama, they watched to feel like part of the family. Over 275 episodes later, Blue Bloods turned into one of the longest-running police dramas of its time. And through it all, Tom stayed the course. No scandals, no walk-offs, no creative clashes. Just consistency, professionalism, and heart. But here's the thing most people missed. Frank Reagan wasn't just another tough guy role. For Tom, it was personal. He once said in an interview, "It's not my mission, but this show lets me play a strong father figure." That's rare now. He wasn't wrong. In an age where TV dads were punchlines, Frank was the opposite. Flawed, yes, but firm, wise, and unapologetically present. Even now, as the series approaches its final stretch, Tom isn't ready to say goodbye. He believes the audience is still growing, still tuning in, still invested. And maybe he's right, but networks move on, and endings are inevitable. So the big question looms: what happens next? You'd think Selleck would ride off into the sunset, but before that, he found himself at the center of an entirely different kind of drama, one that had nothing to do with scripts and everything to do with avocados. Tom Selleck, the epitome of a straight-arrow TV dad and principled tough guy, probably seemed like the last person you'd expect to be accused of stealing anything, let alone water. But in 2015, the unthinkable happened. As California grappled with its most brutal drought in history, headlines exploded with a name no one anticipated. Tom Selleck was being sued for illegally transporting over 1.4 million gallons of water. The lawsuit wasn't a joke. The Calleguas Municipal Water District alleged that for over 2 years, trucks were spotted filling up at a public hydrant and making repeat trips to Selleck's Hidden Valley Ranch, a sprawling 65-acre property known for its lush avocado groves. It sounded like something ripped out of a soap opera. A Hollywood star smuggling water through secret truckloads, all to keep his fruit trees alive while everyday Californians were being fined for watering their lawns. People didn't know what to think. Was it a misunderstanding? Was he really orchestrating an underground water pipeline? Memes flooded the internet. Headlines called it Avogate. Environmental groups wanted accountability. Some fans were shocked. Others oddly impressed by the sheer surrealness of it all. And just like that, America's favorite commissioner was at the center of a very un-TV-friendly scandal. Selleck never publicly admitted guilt, and the case was quietly settled with a payment of $21,685 to reimburse the water district for investigative costs. No fines, no criminal charges. Just a strange chapter closed without much noise. To this day, Tom has kept mum on the ordeal, brushing it off with the same calm detachment that's defined much of his public persona. But while the scandal didn't destroy his image, it did something else. It cracked it, just a little. It showed that even the most seemingly grounded celebrities live with complications, contradictions, and choices that don't always line up with their characters. The farmer-turned-TV legend had a moment where the lines between public image and private need collided. And just when you think that would signal a step back from the spotlight, Tom Selleck surprised everyone again. At 80, with over 50 years in the entertainment business, Tom Selleck has earned the right to disappear into comfort. No one would question it if he called it a career, bought a rocking chair, and spent the rest of his days tending to his land and watching sunsets over his avocado trees. And yet, he hasn't, because Selleck isn't wired for stillness. He might live on a peaceful ranch now, but he's never been about slowing down, only changing pace. Nestled in California's Thousand Oaks region, his ranch isn't just a post-Hollywood retreat. It's a full-time commitment. Formerly owned by Rat Pack legend Dean Martin, the property spans 65 rugged, beautiful acres. And Tom does the hard work himself. Road maintenance, brush clearing, tree care. It's physical, relentless, and completely off the radar. "I hate gyms," he once said in an interview, "so I work cheaper than anyone I could hire." There's something deeply revealing in that statement, not just about his practicality, but about the pride he takes in doing things the old school way. Whether it's a TV role or a busted fence, Tom Selleck shows up. And even as Blue Bloods comes to an end, he's not disappearing quietly. While insiders speculate he may soon retreat from acting to spend more time with his wife, Jilly Mack, and daughter Hannah, now a successful competitive equestrian, Tom is working on something new, something deeply personal. His memoir, You Never Know, is scheduled to hit shelves soon. And from what we know, it's not just another surface-level celebrity tell-all. It's honest, it's intimate. It's filled with the stories fans have never heard, like his early struggles, his heartbreak over losing roles, his quiet service during Vietnam, and the friendships that shaped his career behind the scenes. From Frank Sinatra and Carol Burnett to Sam Elliott, Tom's real-life circle was just as iconic as the characters he portrayed. But the memoir also promises to peel back the polished Hollywood exterior. It'll cover the temptations he resisted, the values that kept him grounded, and the emotional tug-of-war that comes from choosing loyalty over opportunity again and again. It's the story of a man who said no more than he said yes, and still became a legend. So no, this isn't a retirement, not yet. It's just another chapter in a life defined by quiet strength, surprising decisions, and one enduring truth. Tom Selleck isn't done telling his story. In a world where fame is fleeting and reinvention is a necessity, Tom Selleck managed to do the impossible. He stayed the same, and somehow that became his greatest power. For decades, he played characters who stood tall in the face of chaos. But behind the camera, he was doing the same thing, navigating fame, family, and fierce expectations while refusing to play by anyone's rules but his own. Think about it. How many actors would have walked away from Indiana Jones? How many would have turned down Baywatch in its prime or passed on endless blockbuster roles because of loyalty to a TV contract? Tom did. Not because he lacked ambition, but because he valued something Hollywood rarely celebrates anymore: integrity. While others chased the spotlight, Tom was busy planting roots. And that's why people didn't just watch him on TV, they trusted him. Whether he was Magnum with a smirk and a Ferrari, or Frank Reagan holding court at the family dinner table, Selleck brought more than charisma. He brought weight, presence, honor. And as Blue Bloods reaches its end, it's not just the conclusion of a show, it's the end of an era. A 13-season legacy built on tradition, family, and moral complexity. It was a series that didn't just entertain, it stood for something. And at the center of it all, always, was Tom Selleck. But if you think this final season marks his retirement, you don't know Tom. He might be quieter now, more selective, but he's far from finished. His ranch in Thousand Oaks isn't a retreat, it's a reflection of who he's always been. Grounded, hands-on, and never too proud to do the hard work. That ranch isn't just where he grows avocados, it's where he grows legacy. And then there's You Never Know, his long-awaited memoir. Early whispers suggest it's more than just a trip down memory lane. It's a look at the battles he fought silently, the choices that cost him, and the victories that shaped him. It'll take readers inside the world of Hollywood through his eyes, but also into the silences in between. The doubts, the moments no one else ever saw. In an age of oversharing, Tom Selleck stayed mysterious. In a business of reinvention, he remained real. And in a culture where fame fades fast, he built something that lasted. Not just a career, but a standard. So what's next for Tom Selleck? Maybe he disappears into the California hills, working the land he loves. Maybe he surprises us again with a new role, a new story, another twist. Or maybe, for the first time in decades, he slows down just enough to enjoy everything he's earned. Whatever he chooses, one thing is certain: Tom Selleck didn't just survive Hollywood, he outclassed it. And now, after all these years, we finally get to hear his story, told the only way he knows how. Honestly, humbly, and on his own damn terms. If Tom Selleck's story surprised you, just wait until you hear what other legends gave up to protect their legacy. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because the next untold story might just change how you see your favorite star forever.